Welcome, dear viewers. You have tuned in to the third episode of the new locally produced TV series called Ask the Mayor, a platform exclusive to One Africa TV where you get to ask this country's various mayors questions by sending those questions to the number 555 and then having them answered right here in the studio. I'm your presenter, Joseph Shifeni. Thank you for watching. We are continuing the first few episodes of this television series with His Worship, the Mayor of the City of Windhoek, Dr. Job Amopanda, who now joins me in the studio. Your Worship, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Joseph, and greetings to yourself and the listeners and the wonderful team of One Africa.
Before we start with the public's questions, perhaps you can tell us what would you like to be remembered for once your term as the Mayor of the City of Windhoek comes to an end?
I don't think I can dictate what people must remember me for. I think the whole notion of saying how does an individual want to be remembered for its premise on the facts, on the basis of an assumption that you can dictate people's imagination, people's own observation. They have been observing what I have done together with others, and I would like for them to remember what they saw, what they experienced, and things like that. So I can't really dictate to them what I would want them to remember, but they would remember their experiences. If a person did not have good experiences with me, why must I ask of them to have good experiences with me? Say, for example, the corrupt that we found at the City of Windhoek. Why do I want the corrupt to remember good things about me when I represented hurt to them in their pocket? Because we stopped quite a number of them. How about those people who have been bypassing water meters and we set the ACC on them in order for them to be able to be caught on that? Why would I want them to remember me in some other way? So, but I think the spirit and the essence of your question is that as we move out of the office, what is it from my own subjective and objective realities? What is it? I think one of the first things that it's quite very important for me, and it was also my priority together with others, is also to ensure that Windhoek gets an identity. You see, Windhoek was previously just absorbed in this central government and things, so people never understood that there's a difference between the minister and the mayor. People never understood that there's an administration with programs, laws, and policies and things like that. One of the things that we're very happy about is because we were able to give Windhoek an identity. The residents are able to say, that is my mayor. We are able to enter conversations on Twitter. We are able to enter conversation even in Berlin Street. We go there and then the residents come and say, so mayor, how are you doing? And then having that conversation, and didn't happen before, because mayors were seen as this very important, flamboyant, big men of politics who must be surrounded by bodyguards all the time, wearing heavy chains of 5 kg, written all the names of mayors from 1910 and things like that. So I really, for me, that was very important for us to provide moral leadership, for us to provide inspiration, for the residents to have a sense of belonging, a sense of attachment to their leader. So if you do a rough test and you ask, for instance, how many mayors do you remember of Windhoek? Some residents don't even know. And some people didn't even know that the city is run by a mayor. It could be out of ignorance, but I think for us that moral leadership and giving Windhoek a voice and a space where we are able to say no, even to central government, it's quite very important.
Thank you, Worship. Now on to the public's questions. We have Sarah Angula who wants to know why a new mayor is chosen every single year.
Well, it's not a decision that I make as an individual. It's very, very strange. It is very strange indeed, because of stabilities and things like that. But it is what it is. It is provided for in Section 11 of the Local Authority Act, that every year the office bearers will be elected. Is a mayor, deputy mayor, chairperson of management committee. So there are various views. I haven't seen strong opinions of why certain things are there. But the Local Authority Act also, I don't think is in tune with the 21st century perspective. We had a meeting of mayors in Grootfontein, and we were also agreeing that we need to reform the Local Authority Act. But the principle of, if we are able to inculcate, particularly in the young people, that it is normal to come to office and leave office, we must normalize that situation so that you get used to that already, instead of, because if you get stuck into a leadership position all the time thinking that you are always the best and things like that, it's a bit of a problem. So it is what it is, but at least the silver lining that we can get into that is to inculcate this principle of that you can come to public office or a particular position and then move out and another person comes in. But obviously over the past 30 years, what we have seen is that mayors have been continuing. Then you start wondering, but why do you have those things? But the principle of it's not something that we must frown upon and cry about. It's inculcating into us. That's why I wrote that farewell to the residents, in observing that legal provision that you are there for a particular time. There is sunrise and sunset. And when it's sunset and you miss sunrise, you shouldn't cry about it, because maybe you can get to do other things, and things like that. So the short answer is that it is a provision of the Local Authority Act that these processes happen. A magistrate will come. Ours will be on the 1st of December. A magistrate will come and officiate the process of the new leadership.
Your Worship, the central area has faced a water crisis in recent years. So Sarah Angula, or rather Eric Handura, wants to know what is being done about building more reservoirs for the city to ensure water supply during the drought.
We obviously had a devastating drought that has devastated. The city had to do a lot of water saving mechanism. We had to stop certain things, including gardening and many things like that. And we had to go on a huge campaign to save water. Fortunately, after that, we had a huge rain that also had flooding and things like that. Now, what was happening when we started receiving a lot of water, we started an initiative called Recharge of the Aquifer. So naturally, when the rainwater comes, you hope that it dries and then it goes to the aquifer, which is an underground layer of water. So what we have actually been doing, we actually been drilling holes into the ground. You drill the holes and you recharge manually. Like you make sure that you don't just assume that the water is going to sink. We're actually drilling holes and to recharge that water. So we have quite a very good water infrastructure. And I had an opportunity to visit the scientific services and the water department and the reclamation plants and all those things. Quite wonderful work that we're doing there. But there has been a lot of recharge taking place. But also, there has been an enforcement of staying away from building in the area. You see that side of Prosperita, Klenekupe, Unam, that's very sensitive area of us. So we've been quite very clear that we don't want to have any construction taking place there because of the likelihood of polluting the underground layer of water. So the measures have been to protect the underground layer of water, but also to drill and recharge physically or artificially, or whatever it is that you could call it. We've been sending water underground. Because, as they always say, during the rainy days, you must also plan for the dry days.
Would reservoirs also help in that regard, in terms of ensuring water security? Absolutely.
That's in fact, during the drought season, we're getting much of our water from the reservoirs through the boreholes and so it kept us alive. So it's something that we're quite very serious about. And in fact, we were not absolutely clear where the contours, where the lines of the aquifer has been. There was some study done by some scientists from the University of Namibia. So there's an idea of where the aquifer is, but we wanted now to be very specific so that we now know. So there is what is now called the red line.
Yes.
And not the one that we are going to remove in court, but the red line and the yellow line.
Okay.
So the red line basically means that you cannot build anything beyond the red line. The yellow line, you can still do something about it, but you would have to be very clear in terms of what is it. Something probably light that you could do, maybe houses, but not major factories and things like that.
Okay.
So we are indeed, our eyes are on the ball as far as that is concerned.
Okay. Let's go for a quick commercial break, and when we get back, we will be looking at more questions from you for the Windhoek Mayor.
We know it's been a hard year, so we have worked to bring you the Christmas you deserve with the savings you need. Like all gold tomato sauce for only $25.99 and Coup baked beans and tomato sauce for just $11.49. Merry Christmas from all of us at Spar.
Dear viewers, you have tuned into the pilot episode of a new locally produced TV series called As the Mayor, a platform exclusive to One Africa TV.
Putting a proper system on land and housing. There are no systems in the city. So these are the things that we have now done, because the problem is that it's chaotic all over. You cannot tell people that you must follow the procedures if the procedures don't work. We are now showing for the first time that whether you are a president, whether you are a minister, whether you are an AR activist, whether you are a Nudo activist, whether you are a bishop, whether you are a pastor, there must be order in Windhoek.
At ShopRite, we have low prices on everything you need this Christmas. From all your festive favorites to gifts for everyone and so much more. Get a 10-kilo bag of Top Score maize meal for only $96.99. And two 2-liter bottles of Pop soft drink, all variants, for just $22. Choose low prices this Christmas at ShopRite.
Welcome back. You are watching Ask the Mayor. Your Worship, a concerned citizen asks what the mayor's take is on the increasing number of children standing at street corners asking for money and for food. Some of them are as young as 5 years old.
Well, it's a societal, sociological issue. You would need to be able to understand why certain things happen the way they do. For instance, there are people who go to those streets and stop and ask the kids to come in the car and then take them to a place to shop and buy them food and things like that. Some of them even attempt to take them to the shelters, and those kids come back to the same cycle again. That's one. Two, there are really a lot of broken homes in our city. There's simply just nothing to do at home. There's no food. And things like that, absent parents and things like that. Some parents are just either on drugs or alcohol. So this also comes from dysfunctional homes. And so it's a socio-economic issue that requires a socio-economic intervention. It doesn't necessarily require the opinions of the mayor and things like that, because you need to understand the sociology of a society. The sociology of a Namibian society, particularly the urban context. And why is it that things are happening the way they are? Because if you look, for instance, the statistics from the Ministry of Education, the number of dropouts, even in Windhoek, where people assume that the infrastructure is there and things like that, why are children dropping out of school? So we are really, admittedly, and this is not just my view, we are a broken society that needs to be fixed. The economic problems that any society experiences have a social ramification. If somebody loses their job, they are stressed and they go into the street. They don't go to heaven in order to deal with their stress, or they don't go underground. They are living in societies. They go to the bars and they drink and they come back homes and they do things like that. Things have been really tough for our residents. The economy has not been... before even the economy went into the negatives, the economy has been growing, but it's been a jobless growth. You know, you can have economic growth, the economy that is growing, but it's not creating jobs. People are probably investing in sectors that are not absorbing. Take, for example, agriculture. Agriculture only contributes 6% to the country's GDP, but is the highest employer in the country, you know, and things like that. So you would have to look at those problems from a sociological standpoint. The economic development is a section in our city. It does not have a head now. Mr. Mbunda, who was in SE, he retired and then he became a councillor. He's no longer with us. But the economic development is supposed now to deal with those specific aspects. But I'm not sure that, I don't think we've really gone to the drawing board to look at the social fabrics of our society and really interrogate and see what is it that we need to do. Because Windhoek is absent we needed to be able, as a leadership, to be able to say that these schools that are in Windhoek here in our city, what are they doing? And are we happy with what they're doing, and how do we engage to ensure that whatever it is that they're doing does not result into social catastrophe, for example, and things like that. So because of how the city has been managed over the years, the city has absented itself from being able to give direction to social dynamics and social problems, to economic dynamics and economic problems. They were mainly concerned about political things.
So what you're saying is, Your Worship, the city of Windhoek does not have programs for the street kids?
Well, we do have wonderful programs that are happening. For example, the city police have a drug unit, and I can tell you the youngest person that is involved in drugs is 10 years old. We have 10 years old that are involved in drugs, and this is not just taking drugs but also trading and things like that. So the city police has been doing quite wonderful work there in being able to do those things, but we could do more. Economic development, the youth division, and the social workers that we have, and so I'm not convinced that we really have a proper framework to deal with this some of these problems. But these problems are a result of a dysfunctional socio-economic architecture, not only of the city but also of the country. And if something does not go right in Windhoek, it also doesn't go right in the country. Windhoek contributes 33% to the country's GDP, and we have the highest population. We receive about between 10 to 15,000 people every year. So those social problems are always going to be there. I'm not convinced that we have really sat down to be able to position ourselves as a city that is able to respond to social problems. Yes, we do know that there are orphanages that are there. Yes, we do know that there are child care centers that are out there. But if somebody, for instance, wants to dump a child, you are just tired of your child, like what has actually happened, the result is that they go and throw these kids in the dustbins and things like that. Where can they go? In Swakopmund, for instance, whether it's an initiative or a private citizen, you can actually put even a cubicle there where you can just go and, I don't really want to say it's dump a child, like you donate a child there and then they can take care of this child. So I don't think we've really put together in those to be able to respond to those problems of struggle kids, street kids, and all those things.
Moving on, Your Worship, Saima Ipinge, a resident living in Windhoek, she asks if the Ramat Tuks plan can be converted into a business where vendors and SMEs can sell products and services like making and selling kapana or sewing in exchange for a monthly fee for the municipality.
Most residents are not aware, because we've been very weak in the city over the years, have been very weak in communicating what is actually happening with Ramat Tuks. There are maybe about 10 of those factories. Ramat Tuks is just one of the buildings. The whole place is called Rhino Garment. Ramat Tuks is just one of the buildings there. The city have access to, I think, 3 of them. The one that is used for boxing and other things, and another one that is just, I think, 3 of them that we have access to. Others are still with liquidators. In fact, those liquidators are making about 200,000 a month, getting money from, I think, the breweries or Coca-Colas, one of those big...
using it as a storage.
Yeah, using it for those facilities, because we are still in court, because our legal people have been very weak in terms of sorting out this issue once and for all.
Now, is it the legal team in the city or...
Whoever it is, whether the legal team in the city or the lawyers that we have also just contracted, has been very back and forth, you know, because but the point I'm trying to make is that those many facilities are not in the control of the city; they are in the control of these liquidators. And look, these Ramat Tuks people left when many years ago, more than 10 years ago, and this issue is still not resolved. So it's still on our agenda. And one of the facilities that we have had access to, we had actually agreed to give it to what is called National Health or what body of Dr. Aufikwe and other professionals who wanted to put up a COVID center. To have a COVID component and a post-COVID center. They were working with business people and engineers to be able to convert that facility into the hospital, which was good for us because our people in those areas don't have access to facilities. So we had resolved at council. They're supposed to have signed an agreement. So I just don't know how far they have gone. But we have also started thinking around that question, what is it that we need to do with those facilities? But it would have been nice for us to get access to all those factories in that whole area. You know, you only have north and southern industry. But how about west and east industries? Probably it could have been one of those western industries areas and things like that. So, because you already have Windhoek there are reclamation plant, and you have Korea Hub Dam and all those areas. So it could fit into some sort of industrial something that you could do. But we don't. The point is that, and most residents don't know because they have not been informed, that we don't have control of all the facilities because we're still having that legal dispute.
We still have a lot of questions to be answered by the Mayor of the City of Windhoek, His Worship Dr. Mupanda. But first, let's go for another break before we get to that.
When life gets boring, we bring out our play, because playfulness is in our DNA. It's in the way we freestyle and smile. We add color to every day and delicious drink. We're the ones who add color to every moment. Fanta, color every moment.
This year, SPAR is helping even more children start school with that new school shoes feeling. We have partnered with Barter to make brand new unisex school shoes available at SPAR stores across the country. Buy a pair of Barter school shoes for only $50 when you spend $500 or more and swipe your SPAR Rewards card. Because every child deserves that new shoes feeling. Only at SPAR.
Welcome back to Ask the Mayor, your exclusive platform here on One Africa TV, where we get to have a sit-down with mayors from across the country, answering questions posted by the public. If you just joined us, we are here in the studio with the Mayor of the City of Windhoek, Dr. Job Mupanda. Your Worship, a concerned citizen asks if the City of Windhoek has planned to extend urban gardens into Karatura, Kommersdal and Rocky Crest, amongst others, adding that the place to be in the Namibian summer is under a tree, and residents of the western suburbs would like more trees.
Thomas Sankara, that I follow and I draw inspiration from, had planted, I think, about 10 million trees. Quite a very short period of time. But you see, in this, you can't not do everything in that short period of time. But councillors are elected for 5 years, so we're still there for that duration. So the environmentally friendly and environmentally conscious and environmentally changing policies really what we want to go to. Not only with these electricity things that we're trying to do by having a solar plant. There are many things that we're actually trying to do to be able to do that. Urban agriculture is something that is part of our food security systems that we have implemented. And we haven't just moved with speed, but the framework is great. In fact, we have gotten about 2 million from UNDP for our Okukuna farm, just somewhere closer to
Korea Hub,
Korea Hub area. So we do those things in order to demonstrate and give direction to where we want to be able to do. And I think at an appropriate time, but obviously these things are not always under your control. So the residents would be able to know what is it that they have to do as a response to that. Backyard gardening, yes, absolutely. In fact, in other urban centers, you would see even the flat, the high-rise building, maybe until the 12th floor, the 11th floor, there you find people selling, what are these things called? These lettuce, ne?
Yes.
Yeah. So apparently those things grow. Yeah?
Leches.
I said lettuce. So I don't know these modern things. So you find that those can be planted even in those balconies in those places, and they takes maybe like 2-3 weeks or so, and things like that. So something that we want to be able to encourage, but we have not gone out forcefully to say what is happening. But you know, in the informal settlement, there are quite a number of initiatives that have already been done, quite a number of gardens that are there. There's one, I think, is it all of primary school there, that, but we have not gone out aggressively to provide necessary leadership that is so that everybody can understand what is it that we want to do with urban agriculture. Also, the cities that we are collaborating with internationally, they are also very clear, for example, the platform such as...
And that's in terms of urban agriculture?
Absolutely. Such as the Commonwealth Forum of, what is it called? Commonwealth Forum, Local Government Forum. The so-called former English, it's a misnomer, like where the former colonies of the British come together for instead of just coming together, whoever is interested in agriculture, whether you are Francophone or Anglophone, Lusophone. But there is also this international focus that the cities must become sustainable, the cities must become green, the cities must feed themselves. As again Sankara says, he who feeds you controls you. So we should also be able to produce our own food in our cities.
Last but not least, we have Simon Sion, who says, who is quite concerned about the dangers posed by overgrown and messy riverbeds, specifically in Okuriangava, and is asking for the city of Windhoek's help.
Yes, we have now taken a decision that, see, public open spaces, people were not just budgeting for it. That's why you have Zupak the way it is. So we've taken a resolution now that there will be a dedicated budget vote for public open spaces, and in order for them to be developed. So it's not going to be like we are budgeting for it or anything. So in fact, the funds that are going to be coming from what is called 10-meter strip, because if your house is close to a public open space, you are permitted by law to take about 10 meters of that. That money, as it comes now to the city, when people pay, it's going to go straight into that particular budget vote. So it's not going to be determined on budgeting and things like that. So we will have those money dedicated just for the development of public open spaces. What is it that we want to see? We want to see a situation whereby our children don't have to go to town. They don't have to take taxis in order to go to excess recreation places. Our young people must be able to find each other, to find their future husband and their future wives, not in clubs and bars, but in public open spaces where they are sober, not where they are dancing. You know, sometimes you find a person in the club and they are dancing, their hairs are all over the place and they are even covering their face, and you don't even check them now. And at the end of the day, you end up with this person, you realize, money. But if you find them at the public open spaces, it would also be good. Because you get to converse with them. You get to, in the club is noisy. There's a lot of music. You are shouting, how are you doing? I really like you. And things like that. But in a sober place, in a relaxed place, the recreation really in greening the city. So a riverbed must be a channel where the water flows. So during the rain, you could even go with your family and check. The water as they run. What do we do when you approach public open spaces? Our people are running away from public open spaces, particularly our girls. Why? Because every time they pass by public open spaces, a potential criminal can come from those bushes. So we now run away from public open spaces because they are places of drugs, places of crime and things like that. We want our residents to be going back there. So I'm very excited that going into the future, those public open spaces, I've actually asked the manager for parks, and together also with the acting SE for economic development, where parks falls under, for them to actually develop a master plan for all the public open spaces, because the planning and the property division knows all the public open spaces that we have. All they needed to do is to ensure that for those public open spaces, they plan for them to say, okay, this is what we can do at these places, and this is how much it's going to cost us, and things like that. So I'm very excited. So there's no reason to worry. Freedom is coming if it's not already here.
Your Worship, thank you very much. And that brings us to the end of the show.
Thank you very much for having me, and I'm really proud of